Alright, on to art theories. These are some of the questions left on the arts. So some of these might not be relevant to the future arts, but yeah, I think this is definitely the section where if you think I missed something, you should probably comment on it because I kind of some of these aren't good. Some of these are just minor things, and I definitely didn't answer all of the questions, but I'll be honest, I kind of just wanted to get it done. And I think some of the questions don't really need to be answered. Some of them are more just additional clues to finding the main culprit, which I guess I technically didn't answer completely. What's actually happening? Which I maybe I'll do at the end. I don't know. Does it really matter? Again, speculation stuff. You can't really lock in an answer with full confidence, I think. In my mind, anyways. I'm not the smartest person, so who knows. But we'll start this off with Onikakushi. So I bring up one of the ones, the Mochi Mayhem, which is the, well, I'm sure I'll go over it. Well, again, why do I have the formatting and just read it out then explain it. So we'll read it out first, then I'll talk about it. One of the events after Mion and Rena's spooky visit, Keiichi choked on a needle implemented in one of the mochi. I'm bringing this back up because I think it's one of the tighter theories from the really loose list of Onitatashi theories I had. From what I remember, Mion claimed that one mochi was baked by Rena, and the rest was from the grandmother. First off, I think it's weird that Mion was the one who did the prank. It would make sense that Rena did it, since you can't really put the needle in after it's made without making it look suspicious. And they challenged Keiichi to figure out which one Rena made, so it would make sense that hers had the needle in it. This could also hint that supports Mion's grandmother being dead anyway already, and that's why she's acting crazy and she's the one who baked the other mochi. Also, Mion's reaction to Keiichi saying something like, "It was just a little prank," makes me feel like that she either might have done something to another mochi. God, this paragraph is horrible. I hate it. I've done something to another mochi, and Keiichi didn't get to try it since he smashed the others on the wall, so maybe there was a harmless prank mixed in, or it just highlights Mion's mindset of being raised as a family, making it even more reliable she's a murder. Okay, so why? Sorry. Anyways, what was I saying? So, yeah, I mentioned how loose my theories were from Onitatashi. Because if you go back to that theory sheet now, which I don't recommend you do, maybe you can watch the video to listen to what I have to say, but it's actually unreadable. But this was definitely one of the theories I liked the most from it. It's the scene where Keiichi and Mion and Rena kind of confront Keiichi, saying, "Oh, we know you went to lunch with Oishi. Here, have this bunch of mochis. If you can guess which one Rena made, you don't have to do the punishment game," or whatever. And so what happened was there was one baked by Rena, the rest were baked by Mion's grandmother, and when Keiichi ate one, he found a needle in it and smashed the rest of the mochi into the wall. And when he confronted Mion claimed that she was the one who did the prank, but it was just a harmless prank, so why are you so mad about this? And that, I always thought that was pretty suspicious. Mion and Rena could have just put the needle in, which kind of just smashes a bunch of these things, but the way she said, and she sounded like super upset, made me think that it was not the case. Like, and I like the idea that Mion actually, like, did something else to another mochi. Like, I don't know, something harmless, like put hot sauce or something, but Keiichi just never experienced it because he destroyed all of them before getting to it. So I kind of like that. Or alternatively, like, Mion legitimately thinks the needle thing was actually just a prank, and it just highlights her and makes it more of a viable theory that she could murder someone. Which, I mean, I don't think needs more support right now, but it's always good to have. Also, the idea that if Mion did bake some of them, then maybe she was lying about her grandmother baking it, because the grandmother could be dead, but it's not too strong. Anyways, classic mochi stuff. So we'll go to the bigger question of this arc, which is the itchy neck. Or otherwise known as the climax. Was it climactic? It's the ending, I guess. Probably the biggest question of this wild arc. Probably the biggest question this wild arc had was what happened from the time Keiichi thought humans were after him and tried to escape to phone call with Oishi. Oh wait, I see. Keiichi thought humans were after him and tried to escape to the phone call with Oishi. Is that a comma? I think that's a comma. Okay. Probably the biggest question this wild arc had was what happened from the time Keiichi thought humans were after him and tried to escape. No, okay. I see it. I think. To the phone call with Oishi where he said the curse was real and he tried to commit suicide via ripping out his own throat. There is the line of which the drug, which kind of sounds silly, but I mean, making your neck itchy enough to the point of suicide is pretty hilarious. I do like the idea of Keiichi witnessing something so terrifying that it completely switches his mindset. While there hasn't been too many hints except for that hint at the supermarket, which is more speculation. My favorite theory for this is Keiichi saw Shion pretending to be Mion, which would really mess with his head since he thinks he just smashed her to death with a baseball bat. Even just seeing her would mess with him. If Keiichi actually acts like Mion, or if Shion actually acts like Mion, and even if she's evil, pretending to be a zombie would probably break Keiichi. Even if she wasn't evil and just stayed in the Mion persona, it would probably enough to break his mind too. So, we look at the big mystery of what happened. I consider it probably the biggest mystery, though again, Onakatsushi was a wild arc with a lot of stuff happening that seemed pretty unnatural. But I think the biggest one is like Keiichi leaves out his evidence. He's determined to try to make it to the phone booth. And he's completely convinced that a bunch of people are after him. Then it like cuts forward to Oishi on a phone call with Keiichi, who's claiming that the curse is real, and he starts killing himself. So his motivation's completely switched. And I don't know how long it was, but yeah, it was a complete switch that felt super unnatural. I talked about the drug. There's claims that maybe he could have been injected with the drug in different scenarios, and maybe the drug isn't a mind control thing, but I don't know, makes your throat really itchy to the point where he kills himself, which is kind of funny. But the thing I do like the idea more than it being death by the drug is that Keiichi saw something so terrifying or something so polarizing that it switched his motivation to escape and his idea that humans are after him. Now again, there isn't too much to go off of. There's the hint in the supermarket where Keiichi also sees something he shouldn't see, but again, there's nothing to really go off there. I really like the idea that he sees Shion dressed as Mion. Just what this does, again, this is pre-Shion action. This is like Keiichi just found or finished seeing like Mion smashed to bits, which he assumes that he kills him, which he probably did kill her. And then she just sees a perfectly normal Mion there. That could probably really mess with your head. Now I don't think she needs to be evil. She could just like act like Mion, and that would be enough for Keiichi to like run away screaming. But I also like the idea that if Shion was evil and she's like, oh, I'm back from the dead Keiichi, that would also probably mess Keiichi up pretty bad. But yeah, I really like this as an answer to why Keiichi made the switch. I think that's pretty good. I don't really know what else Keiichi would see that would mess him up too much with the information we have that's not supernatural. So that's my answer for if it was done by persons, something that made him messed up super much. And I think it's a really good idea. Like imagine just thinking you killed your best friend and you go up and you see she's alive again. That's pretty insane. Then I talked about Tomotaki also suffered a similar fate, but obviously it wasn't the cause since he already knew about Shion. A good meme would be that the fate Tatano showed up would be the fate Tatano showing the real Tatano. I think Oishi said that he was attacked by multiple people, so Rena and Sonozaki's could have been the cause. Obviously we can't do the Shion Mion thing with Tomotaki because it doesn't really make that much sense. He didn't just go through the trauma of thinking of killing Mion. Also, we can assume that Tomotaki does know who Shion is since it's been there for multiple years. Going with the fate Tatano, like showing like, imagine like the fate Tatano shows up with the real Tatano, that would be really weird. Though again, the idea of just like Mion and Rena and people who are just acting as their friends, like trying to kill Tomotaki is pretty terrifying too. But again, more speculation. And that's all I have for Untitled. We didn't answer who. We do answer it more in the Discord chat list, but I don't know. I think that's fine. Again, if you think I've missed anything important or at least something you want me to talk about, then feel free to leave it in the comment, or just to know I might talk about it by the end of this, so double check. Which I mean, I'll still answer you, but it's always good to double check. And next up we have Watanashi. Next we're on Watanashi, probably my favorite thing in this theory sheet, and I'm super happy that I did it. It's kind of funny. So basically the main part of this was solving the walking Mion corpse thing, and then like as I was, because this is like the only one I really went back to my videos and looked at all the evidence, because I did want to solve this one, and then eventually I like find like something really interesting, and then it shifts my whole ideas. So I think this was definitely the most fun I've had doing this, so hopefully this is good. I think it's a really spicy theory, so we'll see how you liked it. So yeah, Night of the Living Sonozakis. The biggest question of the arc would be the fact that Keiichi was assaulted by Mion when she was allegedly already dead, along with Shion supposedly being pushed out of the window by her. I really like the feel of this problem. It definitely gives an Umineko vibe, but with the lack of retets and 100%, maybe 100% solid evidence. Just forgot to put that. Makes it incredibly difficult to logic it out. In this section, I will go over all of the evidence and possibilities since I don't really have much of a solid answer, which that changes. But yeah, it does definitely give off an Umineko problem. Like when you just look at this problem, it feels like the answer has to do with alibis and timing and stuff, which is very Umineko, but without red text or like solid proof, it's very hard to you give a really hard answer if you don't find like a string to pull. So like for the first parts, I give off some of my opinions on the evidence given, so let's go down there first. First off, this problem was paired with Takano also being a walking corpse, but I'm extremely satisfied with my Takano take. The problem is that you can't really come to the same explanation with Mio, since Takano's corpse was burnt to the point where it was extremely hard to identify. The second point would be the validity of Obishi's claim that she's Mion. From what I've seen from Oishi, while he does help in cases, I think he lies just as much, so I cannot fully trust him. Then I have to question, how did they identify her as Mion? I know she died falling down and suffered a lot of blunt damage. Did they just identify her visually or through DNA testing? If it was done visually, then it leaves a pretty big possibility that it was Shion down there. Even if they could identify the bat tattoo, I don't consider that proof that the corpse is Mion, since there are a lot of ways to get around that, which we talked about a bit. If it was by DNA, then it's important to note that the twins have the same DNA for fingerprints and teeth, but since she died from falling, they could have been easily damaged. While I don't expect an answer, I think it's important to note that identifying the body isn't a complete guarantee, especially back when the DNA testing was relevantly new. I think it's relatively, but whatever. So yeah, the main sort of crux of this, or one of the main cruxes of this situation is the fact that Mion was killed. So I like to put the questionability if it was really Mion. Obviously the Takano thing doesn't work here because the body obviously at least somewhat looks like Mion. Then we have to go to like, how much is Oishi telling the truth of? He could be telling all of it, he might be lying about it. Like, again, Oishi's not the most trustworthy. Then I question the validity of the autopsy or how they identified it, because again, if it was visually, I mean, I'm assuming there's more green-haired people in the Sonozaki family, so it could have been someone else. It could have easily been Shion if it's the bat tattoo. Like I said, I explained it a bit before, where I don't think that's too much. And if it's DNA, it's very important to note, which it doesn't really talk about in the series, is twin DNA is actually like 99% the same. Like, and I assume they are identical twins because they literally look exactly the same. So the only way to actually identify two twin corpses, if they look the same, which they do, is through fingerprints and dental records. But if she suffered blunt damage, then it could have easily been damaged. So I was questioning how accurate is the DNA testing. Also, this was pretty early on, so DNA testing, if it was there, it would have been, which it is there, I assume, from just some of the hints, would be relatively new, so it's not very reliable. So yeah, during this I was definitely like, if we're going to open up some more answers than the obvious ones, which there isn't actually, but we'll talk about that soon. It's good to like question it, and it's not like we're gonna get any DNA answers, I feel like, from this one, but it's good in a theory making perspective to open up the path a bit. Next, we have our next piece. Another question I have is, why is Shion even alive in the first place before Keiichi blacked out? Mion stated that letting Shion live was the last thing she would do, so how did Shion manage to live? And why did Mion flee before killing her? The first option is that she was simply lying to Keiichi, which does seem to be weird in such an emotional scene, but as shown throughout the arcs, the sisters are good actors. The second option is that while Mion was killing Shion, she was stopped by Oishi's boys and maybe Rena and was forced to flee. A cool line would be that Oishi or somebody actually somebody else actually throws Mion down the well, and that's why he's sure Teichi is lying because he killed her himself. The third option would be that Mion actually killed Shion and swapped places with her before the police arrived. This would seem like the most basic line. If you doubt, the death confirmation by Oishi. So this is a very interesting question, which I don't even think I really answered in my new theory down below. And like, why is Shion alive? We just had this emotional conversation where Mion said, "Oh, I'll let you live, but I have to kill Shion. It has to happen." And then Shion's literally just alive. So that always bothers me, and still kind of bothers me. I don't know why. The option of Mion lying to Teichi about killing Shion is kind of weird. The only like way I would see that actually working if the sisters were actually working together, but I don't think that happened. The second option is maybe Mion was killing Shion, but maybe she was trying to torture him or torture her, and in the middle of the act, Oishi's SWAT came in, so she had to give that up and flee. And a cool line, if you do think about this theory, is that maybe Oishi or somebody else, whatever, his force actually catches Mion and decides, instead of arresting her, to just kill her, or like kind of forces her to fall down the well. I think that's kind of cool, and it would explain why Oishi is adamant that Mion is dead and Teichi is lying. So I kind of like that line, and that actually still kind of works with my theory. A third option would be Mion actually killed Shion and swapped places with her before the police arrived. Again, this only really works if you doubt the death confirmation, which I think is fine if you do. If you don't, then yeah, I think all of these are pretty decent answers to why Shion is alive, though again it's a lot of speculation. On to the next piece of evidence, which I talk about the situation with Shion's suicide / murder, is the statement by the bodyguard to prove that Mion pushed Shion is another piece of the puzzle, but after looking at it again, it really doesn't support it that much. So the neighbor, who was a veteran bodyguard, heard the two of them fighting, but we know that both of the sisters can mimic each other's almost perfectly, so this doesn't really prove much. Also, the guy claims that Shion has been doing this multiple times, but he was more suspicious since this one lasted longer, which again doesn't really matter. Finally, it was said that the guy needed a key to open the door, which means Mion needed to take Shion's key and lock the door, sneaking out without being seen. While that is possible, there's no reason for her to lock the door unless she was trying to make it look like a closed room murder, which isn't working since people are suspecting her anyways. In my opinion, it just seems like a suicide, and the arguing is just a side effect of trauma. So yeah, Mion's... So the main reason why people think Shion was killed by Mion was the bodyguard thinking that they heard her arguing with her sister, and since he's been around them for a while, it sounds like when they're arguing. But literally, the fact that one, he claims that she's done this before, and it was just her arguing with herself, but because this time was longer, he was more suspicious, doesn't really sound like anything. And two, we know that they can act like each other pretty perfectly, and if she really is in a manic state, then it makes sense that this could happen. And again, the guy said that this happens before. This one was just longer than usual, so I don't really think that's too strong. Also, he said when he gets the key, he goes into the room, he unlocks it because the door was unlocked, and finds the room a mess. Which again, if she was just having an episode, that could happen. And they found her dead after falling through her apartment. Now, a big point of this is the door is locked, which means that if Mion was the culprit, she would have to, well, I don't know, escape through the window, which seems dumb because it was obviously a tall building, enough for Shion to die by falling. So the main thing would be that she would take Shion's key and lock the door. Which, I mean, I guess you can argue that it's to delay the search of the room. But with all that screaming, I don't think it did much. Like, it almost seems like it tried to make itself a locked room murder, but it just doesn't make much sense in my mind why Mion would take a key and lock the door. So yeah, I think it's more of just a suicide, if anything, and the arguing is a side of trauma because she's literally been doing it for a couple days. And we'll go into it a bit more in the next piece of the puzzle, which kind of drove me to figuring out my new theory for this question. Probably the biggest piece that makes this so puzzling is the fact that Shion's fall happened around the same time as time Keiichi got stabbed. Boo to the person who said that it happened at different times. This means that whoever was at Shion's place was almost definitely not the person who stabbed Keiichi. First off, Otonomiya is about an hour walk away, which the distance was highlighted in Shion. In a Shion is Mion switch where Shion delivered Keiichi lunch in like 10 minutes when it would have taken much longer if she actually came from Otonomiya. Also, the incident happened at 2 a.m., so it's impossible that Shion took the train. Maybe she got an ally of the Sonozaki's driver, but in my opinion, this means that the person at Shion's place is not involved in the stabbing. So this was definitely the biggest part of the mystery for me. And when I was arguing with people, someone says, no, they happened on the same day but at different times. No, I literally, so because this is definitely, I thought was definitely a question that needed all the evidence, so I was definitely scouring through my finale video for this. And no, it claims that both incidents happened around the same time at 2 a.m. So it literally states that they happened around the same time. So yeah, take that. Which means, and we know that, as stated before, it takes a long time to get to Hinamizawa through Otonomiya. Walking would probably take an hour or two. We did that example where Mion dressed as Shion to give Keiichi lunch. And the hint was it is Mion because it took way too quick for Shion, who just called and says, oh, I'll bring you lunch to make up for it. Then and for her to actually come there after making the phone call that quickly is just impossible. And again, 2 a.m., so it's not like she could have taken a train. And it was also impossible for she could have gotten a drive, but it just seems very convoluted. And even if you don't say that they happened exactly at the same time, like if it takes like an hour to get from one to another, like a 2-hour difference is pretty important. So I think that the important thing to take away from this piece of evidence is that whoever's at Shion's place, you can believe that it's Mion that did a switcheroo. You can believe that it's Shion by herself is not involved with the stabbing, which really puts a dent in like almost all the theories and all the stuff I did before, because you could have argued that yes, it was Mion switched with Shion, and then she stabbed Keiichi, went back and killed herself, or it was Shion who did it, who went crazy and killed Keiichi. But it's just impossible for them to be there. So then the main question of this is, the only way possible is the corpse of Mion or somebody else completely different, which didn't make much sense. And then I came to an epiphany. Well, the evil Hawu kind of spoils it, but I found something, and we'll read it and I'll talk about, I think I talked about it here, but we'll talk about the process because it made me so hyped. The most hyped for a theory for a while. I even started. While writing this and looking over the Watch and Higurashi finale, I found a major clue, which completely changes my point of view, and I'm super excited about it. We'll keep the buff stuff because it's kind of funny. Like, I could have edited the buff stuff, but I like the sudden switch. When I was looking at Mion during the stabbing, I was trying to find any visual clues, which I thought I wouldn't, since I couldn't really tell the sisters apart anyways, by appearance anyways. Actually, by anything, I guess, technically. But I noticed a big hint. During the stabbing, Mion's eyes were blue, when both Mion and Shion have a shade of green for their eye color. This makes me believe that the person who stabbed Keiichi is actually somebody in a Mion disguise, which is a great bait if true. With this chapter having so many disguises, it leads you to believe that those are the only characters who switch. The only character with similar build and blue eyes is Rena. While I'm super locked down on the idea that Rena is the culprit, I discovered it might be a little bit more complicated. So basically I was looking, again, trying to solve this thing, looking at that scene over and over again, mainly just looking for or around that scene, looking for some clues. And then I'm like, okay, let's see if we can actually find any visual clues. I don't know, maybe if there's like a hidden star or something. So I open up like some of the CG thumbnails I have of Mion, and then I noticed that their eye colors are actually different. I don't have a comparison, but you can look at my finale video, or you can just, I don't know, open up the game, but her eyes are literally blue, while Mion and Shion's eyes are both shades of green. So that was insane to me, and I made sure I looked throughout like all the Mion pictures, the Mions before that, and yeah, totally different eye color. And I guess I just didn't notice because it was because you know, you're in this climax, you're not really looking for eye colors, or at least I wasn't. So I was like super hyped for that. And again, I looked who could disguise themselves as Mion, and the answer is literally just Rena. And I think it's a great, if this is true, which I hope it is, it's such a great bait because this whole chapter kind of focuses on the Mion and Shion switcheroo. So you don't really expect someone else would disguise themselves as one of the sisters, but I really do think it is Rion. I mean, you can call it Rion with Rena and Mion together. But yeah, I really like that. We go into it more with the evil Hua, Hawu. And we go in for a bit, so let's get into that. With this recent discovery, I feel super close to breaking this crime right open. So with that in mind, I scoured the rest of the video, referring to the finale video, to see if I can find this blue-eyed Mion, and she did appear in an awkward spot. So with the Mion, Keiichi, and Rena confrontation, Mion was normal-eyed. During Keiichi and Mion's walk to the torture dungeon, Mion was normal-eyed. But the sprite changes for when Keiichi finds Shion in the dungeons. The weird thing is that the normal-eyed Mion is there for the torture scene, but changes back after Mion decides to let Keiichi live. It's important to note that in every time the sprite changes, Keiichi is not looking at Mion. The first being when he was talking to Shion and Mion was behind him. The second is when Keiichi's eyes closed, bracing himself for the torture. It's also good to note that the blue-eyed Mion's skin is paler than the original. So yeah, I was like, okay, we have this possibility that Rena is Mion. Is there any other blue-eyed Mions in this finale video? And I looked through it, and there is, and it's in a really weird spot, which does put some implications on the whole situation, which we'll talk about in the bigger paragraph below. But basically, during the talk with Rena and Keiichi, Mion is naturally green-eyed because, you know, Rena's right there. During the walk, she's green-eyed, like all the way to the torture room she was green-eyed. Again, which makes sense because Rena, she doesn't really have a chance to change. But when Mion goes up to Shion's prison cell or whatever, and then he turns around, Mion's blue-eyed. which is pretty interesting. But then after Mion knocks him out and straps him up to the chair where Keiichi was kind of losing focus, she's back to being green-eyed, which is very, very interesting. And I think you can get what that implies, but I'll explain it later. And then after, when Keiichi was bracing for the torture, he closes his eyes, but when he he opens his eyes, it's blue-eyed Mion again. That's pretty cool. Also, it's good to note that the skin color is actually a bit more pale than normal Mion. I think it's even a little bit more pale than Rena, but it's okay. We'll go on to the bigger one stuff. I think there's two ways you can look at it. The first being a mental change, and the blue-eyed form is her demon form. The downside to this would be that it doesn't actually help solve the mystery, since Mion is still dead and Shion is still isolated in her apartment. Now, if you're a supernatural believer, this would be proof of the demon, making the claim that she rose from the dead to kill Keiichi a bit more credible. But I really like the idea that Rena is cosplaying as Mia and is the culprit. It just fits so well, and it would be a great logic trick for this crime. Now, because of the midway switch from the normal-eyed to blue-eyed to normal-eyed, means that Mion was working with Rena. This one made sense that they would cooperate, since they acted together on Higurashi, and it was shown that Mion was asking Rena for help with the Keiichi situation early on. This could actually have been Rena's plan, and that's why Rena was insistent on coming along to perform the switcheroo. There was also a moment where Keiichi and Rena were discussing how people's true selves were the opposite of what it seemed, and it implied that Rena was evil. Rena being the culprit also goes well with the conversation with Rika, where she said that the guard dog was a culprit while referring to the Sonozakis as cats, meaning that neither of the sisters were behind it. Also, the dog reference could be the fact that Rena likes digging through the dump. Basically, there are a lot of these soft hints which make this theory even more credible. So there's two ways to see it. There's like the mental aspect, where that's actually her demon form coming out, and it makes sense. That's the form that stabs Keiichi. The main problem with that, though, while I think maybe it's possible since we do see these spooky forms and stuff, it literally just doesn't help. It doesn't help the theory at all, because even if that was like her demon form, it still doesn't explain how Keiichi got stabbed by a Mion when Mion is dead and Shion is still locked up. I guess if you are a supernatural believer and you believe that's a demon form, it makes it a bit more reasonable to believe in actual resurrection, but I much like the Rena thing better, because I feel like it would be pretty great. Now, the fact that they do switch from normal Mion to Rena Mion, I'm actually just gonna go Rion, because it sounds cool. So Mion to Rion to Mion to Rion again does make it seem that if you believe in this, you have to believe that Mion and Rena were working together, because it can be Rena forcefully taking over or whatever, like forcefully dressing as Mion, because of the switch, right? Like if it was just normal Mion to Rion, like, and then not back to Mion again, then it would be fine if like Rena snuck up on Mion in her cosplayed outfit and like took over. But the fact that they switch must mean that Mion knows that that's Rena cosplaying, and it's all part of their plan. So yeah, so if you believe in that, I think you have to believe that at least Mion and Rena are working together, or at least Mion knows that Rena's cosplaying and agrees to the switch. Then I give a bunch of softer hints. A good indication of this is there was that hint, or not a hint, it was just a scene during the dramatic thing early on with Keiichi thinking about Mion and how he hurt her, and it showed Mion actually confiding in Rena, and like Rena was trying to help her and give her advice. This could have led into the killing partnership, which I talked about in the next paragraph. Nice helicopter. There's also the scene where Kichi and Rena were talking about how people. Oh my god, the helicopter, dude. That's hilarious timing. I'm just trying to keep going though, sorry. Yeah, they were talking about like how people are actually almost the opposite of what they seem. Like how Satoko acts very smart and haughty. She's cute on the inside. Or how like Rika acts like super cutesy. She's more sly. Then like Kichi was like, oh, what does that make you, Rena? And then there's just this awkward silence, sort of implying that she is evil. There's also that big conversation which always bugged me, where Rika's like, she kind of understands what's happening with the murders, and she said she would help Kichi, and she's like, oh, the Sonozaki, she refers to the two Sonozaki sisters as cats, and she says that the guard dog has misunderstood, and that she'll try to stop the guard dog. So she's referring to the culprit as a dog, not the cat, so it makes you think that it's not the Sonozakis. And then I basically relate that, oh well, if someone had to be a dog, it could be Rena. I mean, she's always in the dump digging stuff up like a stray dog, so I thought that was kind of a cute soft hint. But yeah, next we'll go into what I actually think happened, and then I'll go off a bit more after this. If I had to guess what actually happened, Rena is the one who wants to kill people, and with the grandma gone, they're doing their own thing. Maybe Rena told Mion that by killing the people who emotionally stressed her out is the best way to feel better. Rena helped Keiichi learn that Mion was responsible and went along to help Mion escape the situation since she knows about Obishi's plan. The first time Rena switched with Mion was when Keiichi got assaulted and semi-blacked out. This might indicate that Rena is the main murderer while Mion just hosted the location. But I like the idea that Mion didn't want to hurt Keiichi was really hesitant, so she got Rena to do it. Excuse me. The second time was when Mion decided to let Keiichi live. I think after witnessing Mion burp into hiccup, the ultimate combo. I think that after witnessing Mion and Keiichi's emotional scene, Rena decided, oops, pause, something happened. Sorry, that scared me. I'm like, what is happening? I was apparently at a stream, pause in the background, and someone hosted, so it turned to so it was like full volume on another stream, so that kind of spooked me, but good thing we caught that before anything else happened. But where were we? Yeah, so... But I like the idea that Mion didn't want to hurt Keiichi and was really hesitant, so she got Rena to do it. The second time when Mion decided to let Keiichi live, I think that after witnessing Mion and Keiichi's emotional scene, Rena decided that Mion didn't want to kill Keiichi. As for Mion's death, I can imagine that maybe the end goal of the plan was to commit suicide after dealing with the people who caused her harm. Or maybe it was part of Rena's plan to kill her for her own reasons, or it really was an incident. As for why Rena stabs Keiichi, if Rena had her own goals, maybe killing Keiichi was part of it, and now Mion's dead, there's no reason to let him live. Also, the fact that she seemed really paranoid can be linked to when she was saying that Oyashiro was punishing her for leaving Himizawa. Maybe she thought that Oyashiro was after her for committing the murders. Also, with this line, I still think Shion, or if Mion did take her place, committed suicide separately. I guess a flaw could be that we haven't seen Rena pull off a Mion act, but it's not like she had a lot of lines, so I don't think it's that bad of a flaw. So this is kind of me trying to speculate on how this Rion sort of situation would have worked. Like, I like the idea of Mion being super stressed and Rena's like, oh, I know how we can do this. Haboo, let's don't kill people. Or something like that. Like, their plan could have been more elaborate, but we'll just use that as a baseline plan. I like... I didn't mention it in the other one, but I mean, I read it, but I didn't refer to it. I like the idea that Rena actually helped Keiichi learn it was Mion to kind of lure him out, and the reason why she went with Keiichi wasn't because she wanted to help, but she was there for the switcheroo if needed. I also don't hate the idea that Rena was the main murderer, killing people, and she was just using Mion's torture dungeon. I don't know if I know I talked about it later, but I like the idea. I don't know why it's not here, but I like the idea of no, I did talk about it. Never mind. I don't need to mention that up again. But yeah, Mion's grandmother's dead. Maybe Mion actually kills the grandmother, or Rena to do it, and they're like, oh well, we already killed her, we might as well go on the spree. I like the idea of Mion being, while she's down to kill everybody else, she's pretty hesitant for Keiichi. So she got Rena to like knock him out, and while she was trying to like steel herself to like torture and kill Keiichi, the emotional conversation made her switch, and then either she asked Rena to let her go, or I think Rena probably realized, well, I'm helping Mion, and it looks like killing Keiichi won't help her, so maybe we should just let Keiichi go, and that's why they let him go. As for how Mion died, again, maybe the end of this whole goal was just to kill herself after killing everyone. It could have been an accident. Maybe Rena's goal, like Rena was using Mion's problems as an excuse to kill people, so after like their whole spree was done, Rena kills Keiichi, or kills Mion, and like gets out of there. I don't know why Shion died. I don't really understand. Maybe Rena didn't want Shion to die, who knows. And I like the idea that, and then Rena obviously stabs Keiichi. It made sense if Rena was just, because Rena doesn't even need to hide, she can just change outfits and go stab Keiichi without being a big deal about the timing. I also like the line where Rena says, oh yes, I finally killed everyone I wanted to, which kind of leads to her own checklist of who she wanted to kill. So that's why she probably killed Keiichi, and plus Mion's dead, so it's not like she needs to care about Mion's feelings anymore. And with this theory, Shion literally could have just committed suicide. Though it is a little weird that it happened at the same time. It's fine. I honestly think that's totally fine in a story. And I guess a criticism of this could be that we have not seen Rena act like Mion. But again, it's not like there's a lot of lines. When she is blue-eyed, Mion, she's just kind of torturing the sister, like verbally torturing, and like she was crazy in the stabbing, and for the other one she just let Keiichi go. Like there's not a lot of lines to compare it to. I'm sure they didn't switch the voice actors, but yeah, it's also good to note I didn't look throughout the whole series to see if there's more instances with a blue-eyed Mion, but I think that's fine. I looked at a couple videos, some early ones, some middle ones, but it doesn't really make sense that Rena needs to switch to Rion for Keiichi, since that would be the kill she was most hesitant about. I was going to talk about other options, but I really like this one, so I don't think there's a need. I don't think this would mean that Rena is the main bad guy, but it definitely makes me see Rena in a different light. So yeah, this doesn't mean Rena's the mastermind, but it makes me feel like Rena's, like I made the statement before that Mion is more likely to kill than Rena, but with this I feel like Rena's definitely the most dangerous. And again, she's when I have the least grasp on her character, because we don't have too much background information on her. So I really like this theory. Like, what do you guys, if you guys got to this part of the video, how do you guys like this? I'm really proud of it. Obviously don't say if it's right or wrong, but I think it's extremely good. And either way, it's important to find that visual clue of a blue-eyed Mion. Because again, I wasn't looking for visual clues like ever, because it's already been established that they're identical. So if they dressed up as each other, you shouldn't find a difference. But that's the special part of it. Like, if it was someone else, there would be differences. So the fact that there is a difference in the eye color, it leads me to believe that it was somebody different, and I really do believe it was Rena. So I'm locking that in as a theory of the video. Rena is Mion stabbing Keiichi. It's the Rion theory, so that is my explanation for this. For the corpse stuff, we have the crispy Takano thing for Takano's side, and for Mion's corpse we have Rion. So boom, that is my, I mean, this is again the answer sheet, so this is all our theories going into the answer arc, but I think this is my masterpiece of a theory right now. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that one. I really love this theory, but we still have a bit more to go, so we'll do that next. Next we have Tatara Goroshi's theory. I brought back the stinky toss. That's the Satoko theory. It's kind of funny because I feel like writing this, I had something new to add to this theory that we learned from something else, but I literally just didn't because I forgot what I was going to do. So it's just the classic stinky Satoko theory, and I think it's fair to like yoink this and put this into the meme stuff, but whatever. It's a cool theory. It's one of my favorite meme theories. If you haven't seen the Tatara Goroshi theory video, then you'll be in for a treat with this one. That's right, I'm bringing back a theory that should be in the meme category, but putting it as a serious theory. Honestly, I don't know why I like this theory so much, and I think it got slightly worse with the book theory, but let's give it a shot. Basically, the theory is that the uncle thinks Satoko smells bad, which adds to his already abusive attitude. Now, I'm focusing on the smell part because it was weirdly mentioned multiple times about how the uncle abused her because of her smell. There were 2 times where the uncle poured miso soup on her, and the bid scene where Satoko was almost boiled alive because the uncle wanted her to get the smell off. It is important to note that the uncle was dead for some of these, but it's fine if you apply the script theory. My theory is that Satoko might smell bad because she is a corpse, because the game's timeline is linear, so she's already dead, and nobody else realizes the smell because they are also dead. This theory really contradicts with some of the core things I like, but it's funny, so I'll allow it. The better theory is that Satoko had something to do with the disaster, which Keiichi commented on how bad it smelled, and that's the only other time in the series where somebody said something smells bad. You can actually combine it with the zombie theory for maximum fun. So it's the idea that, you know, you have this abusive uncle, and he keeps saying, like, I showed her 3 times where he said she smelled bad, but I'm sure there was more. And she's just like, oh, you smell bad, go clean properly, and stuff like that. And it was just very weird. Like, they kept focusing on how she smelled. There's also, again, some of the times were dead, but if we go by the script family, Satoko wouldn't even notice the uncle was dead anyways. So my first thing is kind of a zombie theory where everyone's zombies because the game's linear, so everyone died once, but they wake up again as corpses. Again, this is totally meme territory, but whatever. And that's why he's smelling her, because she's actually a corpse. Though that might mean he might be smelling everyone that's bad, but he might just be focusing it on Satoko since she's already the source of his abuse. But the theory I like a bit better is the fact that Satoru had something to do with the disaster because when Keiichi woke up and was wandering through the disaster, he commented on how bad it smelled. And these are the only two instances in Higurashi where somebody commented on how something bad smelled, from what I remember. And if we have this connection with smell, then maybe Satoru had something to do with the disaster. Maybe she's the one who set it off, the ultimate trap. Or maybe she was around the swamp at the time when it was building up for some reason. You can combine it with the zombie theory by saying that the disaster happened and people are still living there. And that's why she smelled bad, because she died and her corpse smells like the disaster gases. So yeah, this is a glorified meme theory, but you got your spotlight. Good job, Stinky Satoru. Silent but deadly meep plus Huntress Corpse. So this is going off probably the main mysteries of the series, of this arc. One of the interesting murders was at the end when Satoru and Keiichi found Rita's body sliced open Watanabe style. Now this could be any of the usual suspects since most of them were MIA during this, but I do want to put the spotlight on Takano for this. The way Takano's crispy death works makes her essentially a boogeyman, which is not a really good thing since she has no alibi and no real proof to her crimes. But the way she was highlighted in this arc makes it feel a bit better. Also, the fact that Rita was killed in the old school Watanabe style makes her the prime target if you don't consider the Sonozakis, since she has knowledge about it. And if anyone would mimic it, I can see Takano doing it. As for motivation, there was the journal entry talking about if Rita died, the village would face Oyasho-sama's wrath, and I can honestly see Takano testing that theory out. So yeah, you have the Rita death. There's no real evidence because you kind of skim over it. She's sliced in the Watanabe style. She died like within that day, I think. You have a bunch of suspects like Mion and Rena have no alibi. They've been absent. It could totally happen. But I like putting it on Takano. Now again, I said with the crispy Takano theory, basically in every arc she's a boogeyman, which means she could do the crimes, but they're because she's alive with no alibi since the time of her crispy death. But it's not a really good take to do because again, there's no alibi, but there's no evidence, so it's bad to pin it on her. But in this specific arc where it kind of highlights her confrontation with Keiichi and it kind of just ends very fast, it makes it more believable for Takano to commit the murders. And again, it was killed in the old Watanabe style. Now obviously the Sonozakis know how to do it, but if anyone else would know how to do it, it would be Takano, who's the history nerd who knows all about Hinamizawa histories and rituals. So I can see her doing it, basically. Also for motivation, I have no idea, but we have that little blurb in her journal saying that Rita's like the second coming of Oyasho-sama, and if she died, the village would be doomed. So I can see her killing Rita for that purpose, or at least testing it out. I think a similar theory was for the Huntress Corpse. Out of the people who can dig it up, it would be Irie and Takano, and since I like the clinic theory and think those two are working together, it seems like the obvious choice. Even if they aren't working together, the fact that Takano pitched Keiichi around where he buried the body, it's reasonable to think that she can probably find the location. If she tried looking. So then with the corpse theory, Teppei's corpse disappeared. What happened? Who knows about the location? If you just avoid saying people spying on Keiichi, it would be Takano and Irie, because Keiichi told Irie where it is, while Takano pits Keiichi up where he did the body, and she kind of guessed, or it seemed like she knew what was happening, that he was hiding the body. So if she really wanted to find it, it would be pretty easy. And I think Irie was pretty busy, but I can see them working together. Again, they're literally, it's a clinic theory. It feels good. The fact that the two prime suspects who did it are part of the clinic theory makes it feel a lot more viable. Obviously, Owishi didn't do it because he was trying to checkmate Keiichi. And yeah, there's no real other person. I mean, you could say that, but there's no evidence for any other person. Pretty short to Higurashi. I think after the bid Watanabe thing, I was kind of like, yeah, that's good enough. What am I missing from Higurashi? Why the thing happened? I don't know. There's no proof. Yeah, I mean, the big other thing of Higurashi is the scripting theory, and why did people think Keiichi was at the festival, or why did Satoru think the uncle was alive and he wasn't? That's all the scripting stuff, but we already talked about it, so yep, that's the Higurashi. So let's get into the memes, and we're almost done. I wonder how long this is when I put all the videos together. It might be 3 hours, hopefully not. Maybe on somewhere mid 2 hour 30 minutes, hopefully. Memes, everybody loves memes. So we're at the meme theory where I do the janky stuff. So I brought back the clone stuff. This was kind of a class. I didn't really do memes for Higurashi theories, but the clone one is a classic. It's the idea that, or I guess I didn't read it. The clone village definitely has fallen off with the recent discoveries, but I love the idea that that the story is linear and everyone is just a clone of the original. This helped me in the past explain the Watanabe Mian Corpse thing by claiming that the body Owishi discovered was the smashed one from Autopsy. You can also create a lot of weird situations, plus boogeyman with corpses from the previous arts. So this is basically saying that each arc is actually, it kind of works with what's that each arc is linear, and you can pair it with the experiment stuff, and each of them are actually clones, so people who actually die are dead and they're just replaced with a new clone. And the fancy thing I really liked with this was to explain the Mian Corpse thing in Watanabe. One of my explanations was that the corpse Owishi identified was actually the corpse from the Untitled thing. It kind of made sense because they both died from blunt damage. Obviously, the corpse in Untitled was a bit more smashed up, but again, blunt damage. It works if they can completely confirm that it is Mian. It works fine with it, I think. And you can make some boogeyman stuff by using fake corpses, but it is literally just a meme theory. Next, we have some Umineko stuff. Again, if this is your first video, I didn't mention it, but I have read Umineko. Actually, I did mention it in the intro, but yeah. But I've been actively avoiding using it for some reasoning, so I just talked about it a bit. I like the idea that this world is similar to the Umineko one, where a couple of people are playing it like a game board, except that they don't show the medicines, making it feel extra weird. The idea that Rita is being a piece controlled by the player, not the game master, also made sense with all the unnatural knowledge Rita has. I guess it can be either Burnt Castle controlling Rita, or Rita the piece becomes Burnt Castle somehow. I think this knowledge also makes me not want to suspect Rita as a major villain. Also, I have no idea how Toto is important to the story, but if she is Lambda Delta, maybe she has a bigger role than I thought. So this is combining even the book stuff with the linear stuff with the game board stuff. Basically taking the Umineko idea where it's actually in a higher meta verse, people are actually using the characters to enact their game. Obviously, it doesn't have to be the same as Umineko because it's a different game master. So there's that. And I really like the idea that if that is the case, then Rika is a piece controlled by probably the challenger to the Game Master because of all the knowledge he has. Obviously, the main idea could have been Keiichi is the piece, but like if you feel like someone's different or someone's almost on a higher plane, it does feel like Rika could be like the observer. So like perhaps the Game Master is like telling the story, and it's like, hey Rika, okay, I've given you the information, who's the culprit or something like that might be fine. Also the fact that Lambda Delta is Satoto is weird, because out of the club members I feel like Satoto has the least impact in the story, so maybe using this information that she's related to Lambda Delta in some way might mean that she's more important than I think. Yeah, and you know, it could be Burncaster controlling Rika, because you do get the Burncaster voice with the conversation with Akasaka, or Rika could become Burncaster later. I don't know how that would work, but yeah, just basic stuff like that. I'm guessing somebody is using the book as a catalyst for the game, unless there was somebody who actually knows the whole truth, but everybody is dead, so I doubt that, though it would be hilarious if Oishi was the Game Master. So yeah, a catalyst for the game would be the Oishi Akasaka story. They're using the information they got from there to create Onitakashi, Watanadashi, and Totoroshi as storyboards. I think that's pretty good. If it was just by knowledge of the event, then that would mean someone must know everything about it, and the only real survivor we know of is Oishi. So unless Oishi is the wizard, the what is it? Wizard of police, man. Wizard of detectiveness. I don't know. Unless he's the Game Master. I like the idea that the book is the catalyst. Just some small Umineko stuff. I didn't want to go too into it. There's no point of thinking too much from an Umineko lens, since it's like low-key cheating. So yeah. We have nightmares. Another spicy one is that Keiichi is actually in a coma, and some or all of the arts are just dreams of the original incident. This could either mean that all of the arts are dreams and just have parts of the original incident, or one or two of the arts actually happened and the last arc is just a dream. Also, it could have been an incident, like maybe Keiichi survived the disaster but ended up in a coma, or maybe it's a man-made coma putting Keiichi through weird situations. So this was sort of a bigger, even though I put it in memes, this was a bigger theory for my Totoroshi sheet. I believe somewhere in Totoroshi they do comment on the idea that if this was just a weird coma or whatever, which was like really weird, so it kind of made me think of this. Then you come to the idea that if this is a coma / dream thing, then like what was real, what happened. So it could be that all 3 arts were a dream, and that Keiichi was put into the real and was put into it before from a different incident, or maybe Onitakashi was real and then Keiichi went into a coma and dreamed about Watanadashi and Totoroshi, or Onitakashi and Watanadashi were real, something like that. Then it would be, how did this happen? I kind of like the idea that Keiichi survived the disaster but ended up in a coma, and people were just, he was either thinking about that himself, or people were like examining his thoughts, or maybe he escaped and he was put into a man-made coma where people were examining his thoughts. Very memey, but it's kind of cool. The Cabinet of Keiichi, my good reference, Aiden. A cute theory that feels actually pretty decent is the idea that Hinamizawa is a front for some group to experiment on people with mental problems. I've stated I stated before, but all of the club members had a pretty tough childhood, and the idea that it affects their mental state made sense. Keiichi also kind of fits, and that's maybe why they're putting people through experiments for some reason. It kind of made sense with the clinic theory, bringing Keiichi to the clinic to wipe his memory before the next arc. Maybe the drug is to control them and the whole village is just a testing ground for their mind control serum. Dun dun dun. So yeah, I've said this before. The idea that everyone was like, this is just a testing ground to use on some mentally scarred people, mentally ill people. And then literally all the club members could have something wrong with them. I use mental illness, at least early on, as a lot of motivational, well, not motivations, but reasons why people committed it. It averts kind of with the clinic theory that they're like testing their new drug on these people and seeing their effects through the arts. Yeah, it's alright. And the true culprit, I don't really know, but it feels like multiple people are killed for multiple different reasons throughout their art. But if I had to name one person, it's Satoto Hojo. So I don't know. They insinuated that it was somebody's master plan in Himatsubushi. I still like the idea that throughout the arts, different people killed for different reasons. If you were getting serious, I think Rena killing multiple people throughout different arts isn't a bad take. Same with Mion, same with Irie or Tatano and Oishi. But I mean, Satoto Hojo, the hugest brain in Hinamizawa. Who else can create the drug? Irie? Please. Trapmaster Satoto. There we go. There's your meme. I literally used that meme for something else, but we used it again, baby. So next we have the checklist, so we're in the final stretch, boys. Our last section is the Discord checklist. If you don't know, I also post this in a Discord, which is made for people to talk about like 7th expansion games, and people post their read-throughs, though they usually just post screenshots and talk about their experiences. I post videos and I get interaction from people who don't comment on YouTube videos, so it's just like, it's almost like an alternative platform to link my stuff. But after, in their Himatsubushi section, they actually had a list of questions you should answer before you move on to the answer arts. I think they're made for like, because I'm sure the majority of people don't do this theory sheet stuff. So some of these I have no idea. So I just answer them pretty simply. But I might go into more detail as we view them. So the most basic questions: what happened in Autopsy? Keiichi was digging too much into the past, and maybe the person who committed the first murder teamed up with Mion and Rena to kill him. I do like the idea that the manager is the murderer from the first kill, and I do like the idea of Rena and Mion killing him. I don't hate the idea of Shion and Rena killing him, but Rena killing him feels pretty good. What happened in Watanagashi? Rena teamed up with Mion to go on a murder spree to heal her broken heart. At the end, Rena dresses up as Mion and Shanks, maybe kills Keiichi. I like that. What happened in Higurashi? Keiichi tries to help Satoto, but gets yeeted off the bridge instead. Also, Hinamizawa gets nuked. Basic answers. And even in all my theories, I guess I didn't answer some of the core stuff, but again, I think I answered the best I can speculatively, and finding like main antagonists through the information we have, I just don't think is viable, at least for my brain. I'm sure there are some big brainers out there who logicked it out with the 4 arts. Yeah. But I think I'm fine. So those are some of the basic ones. And questions about history events. Magic, curse, conspiracy. I don't mind Rita being magical. I don't think the murders happened because there's a curse. I can see a government conspiracy for the outsider group, but there's no solid proof. Sort of like what's happening for the supernatural stuff. I don't hate the idea of Rita being magical, but I don't like the idea of anything else magical happening. Like, I don't like the idea of the spooky-eyed stuff being possession, or Mion being a demon. I think it's just human stuff, but Rita can be magical. I don't really mind. I don't think the murders happened because of a curse. Maybe the curse could be a motivation. Maybe one of the killers could be killing people because they want people to believe in the curse or continue the curse, but I don't think an actual curse is happening. I mean, if someone is killing people because of the motivation of continuing the curse, then it kind of works as a pseudo curse, but you know what I mean. I can see a government conspiracy for the outsider group, but there's no solid proof. Obviously, the big government part would be how badly the response to the disaster was in Higurashi, but again, there's no real proof, just more speculation. Why do characters appear with those starry eyes? It could be them acting out after realizing Keiichi is breaking the script. It could be to signify their true intentions. It's good to note that only Rena and Mion had the scary eyes, and those two are the most suspicious killer anyways. So I didn't mention this, but I talked about it in Higurashi. I like the idea of going through a scripting theory for this, and like when Keiichi goes off script, they react differently. They're like, oh man, this guy went off script, let's kill him or deal with him or transfer him away, sort of thing. It could be that's their true selves and they're taking off their masks. And it's good to note that from the spooky-eyed people, we've only seen Rena and Mion. We haven't seen Satoto or Rita do it. We've seen Rita's voice change in her spooky thing, but it's not the same. We've seen Satoto get really angry, but it's not the same. I guess it's important to note that Shion could have also been in spooky mode if they did a switcheroo, but who knows, right? So yeah, and they're Rena, Mion / Shion is the most suspicious anyways, so it's fine. What was the white van? I'm guessing it's the same van that came with the doctors at the end of Autopsy. The only other van I can think of is the one Shion and her bodyguard have, shown in a hint. It would be a good meme if it was a rental car Uishi and Akusaka had for some weird time stuff. So I think this is referring to Autopsy, where Keiichi almost gets hit by a van. Again, we've seen 3 vans, I think. One would be the van the doctor and those like tactical guys came in at the end. It could have been the only other van was like Shion and her bodyguard had one, so that was Shion zooming off. There was also, I believe they got like a rental van, Uishi and Akusaka, but I could be wrong about that. But that would be weird if Uishi and Akusaka were driving through the van and some weird time stuff. I don't know. That doesn't really make sense. That's more of a meme. But yeah, either doctors or Shion and her bodyguard. Again, completely speculative because there's no proof for any of them. And it's not like, I mean, motivation wise could be that. But this is before. This could have been like setting up something. I don't know. Don't have a good answer, I guess, for that. When Keiichi came home with a metal bat, he felt a presence at the entrance of his house. What was it? It could be the feeling that's mimicking Satoshi and becoming aware he's following a script. If you want to think supernatural, it can be Oyasho following him around. It's been shown that Keiichi has a tight surveillance, so maybe somebody was actually just watching him. So yeah, this both happened in Autopsy and Higurashi, and these are the 2 series where it's most likely Keiichi was breaking the script, and this happened more in Higurashi, where I think Keiichi was breaking the script more than in Autopsy. So it really goes well with the scripting theory. It could be that, you know, because he's acting exactly like Satoshi, he also feels that he's mimicking him, so he has like that idea that he's following a script. Or it's been stated that at least in Untitled, people have been surveilling Teichi, so maybe someone was literally just following him, but Teichi did describe he felt as someone was just standing right behind him and nobody was. So there's no real answer to that. Again, more speculation, but scripting makes the best sense to me, and the Satoshi stuff is fine, I guess. In Anakashi, Mion had a syringe, and in Watanabe, Rika's body had a broken syringe. What the hell is this? Were they the same? I literally did not think about the possibility that it was the same syringe. Maybe or not that Rika took it in Anakashi and the story is linear, or it shows that Rika's part of the group that created the drug. So this was a very interesting question that I didn't even think of. A line, like it presented this line that I didn't think of, so it kind of helps a bit, but I'm sure maybe people actually thought about this line. The idea that the syringe in Rika's pocket at the end of Watanabe is actually the syringe that Keiichi had from Anatakushi. This could be like a big nod that the story is linear, I guess. This could also be that Rika went to Mion's house to inject her if she was breaking scripts to calm her down. I don't know. It's an interesting line. I don't think Keiichi's syringe was broken, so they're both broken, but I don't necessarily think that has to be proof that it's linear, but it's definitely an interesting line. So thanks, Discord chatlist. You've given me a new idea to think about in my head for a bit. In Anakashi, who was the manager, I don't really have a good answer. It could be Irie, but he wasn't even in the story by name, so it's probably not. I don't hate the idea of Rena being it. I also don't hate the idea of that Oishi is it, and during Teichi's rage with the bat, Oishi made him kill the girls. Don't really have another person besides the parents. Joke, it's Satoko. But yeah, if you look at who could be the manager from the cast of characters, you could say it's Irie, but he literally wasn't in the story, so it's a little cheese, but like, since he is a character, you could say it was Irie. I literally don't hate the idea of Rena doing it, because I do think Rena was like the person planning a lot of the Watanabe stuff, so it kind of made sense for that, but I don't necessarily think so. If anything, Rena could be like the right-hand man of the manager, and I don't hate the idea of Oishi doing it. Like, again, out of the rest of the characters, Oishi, Irie, and Rena feel the best. Tatano, maybe. I don't know. It also made sense with the metal bat stuff I was talking about before. Like, Oishi comes in as the manager. He's like, oh, here's your metal bat, Keiichi. Time to christen yourself or whatever in my metal bat club and kill those two. It also kind of made sense why, if Rena was the right-hand man of the manager, and why they would be working together. It was shown that Oishi does have a past with Rena, potentially, so there could be that. I don't know. It could be the parents. Weird. Just say it's Satoko. I think that's the best answer. It's Satoko. Do you think Shion appeared in Anakashi? Could have been. I like my answer about her pretending Mion after Keiichi ran away from his house, making him go crazy. I guess you can also say Shion could have been posing as Mion for the final confrontation along with Rena. Yeah, like, I really like my idea that Keiichi ran into Shion pretending to be Mion for the ending. You could say that for some of the evil parts, Shion was Mion. For the last part, even for the mochi part, like maybe Mion actually baked the stuff or whatever and gave it to Rena to give it by herself, but Shion cosplayed, then it doesn't I don't think it matters too much besides the first part of my statement with Keiichi running into Shion Mion thing at the end. That's what I think. Yeah, they met at least once at the ending. Excuse me. My body is dying. Don't worry, we're almost done. You can do it. Do you think Mion was pretending to be Shion before they both appeared in the same scene in Higurashi? Yes, during the date with Keiichi where she talked about Hinamizawa's history, also the time when she gave him lunch. I think they were different days, so yes, I do think Mion was pretending to be Shion. The obvious answer was the lunch where they were talking about the history, which she was really passionate about, and then eventually when the real Shion was talking to Mion, when she was done explaining the history, Keiichi was like, oh, I already know about that. Then Shion was like, oh, my sister must have told you, implying that she didn't tell him about the history. So that's the easiest one. We also talked about the lunch thing just because it was, at the time, it was impossible for Shion to get there that fast. So those were the two scenes I think that Mion was pretending to be Shion. Shion and Tomotachi claim to have heard strange sounds while they were in this forbidden storehouse. What would that be? I don't really know, but the fact that Keiichi and Takano didn't hear it is very interesting since they're both might be script breakers. All of the known characters have alibis, so I'm not really sure who it could be. I totally forgot about this, but it's when they broke into the shed during Watanadoshi, and they apparently Shion and Mion heard this banging sound while they were there, but there's like nothing. But Keiichi and Takano didn't hear it, and it's interesting because those are like the two potential script bearers. Those are the two outsiders, so maybe it was in the script to hear something, or maybe it's just something was supposed to be there, but like again, they're not following the script, so they don't notice it. All the characters do have alibis, kind of, but I guess they're soft enough for someone else to be there. Like all the friends are like watching Rika perform, but one of them could have went away. I believe Uishi was just on patrol, so he has a pretty good alibi. I'm not sure. I think I don't really know the answer. I think there's just a good observation that Keiichi and Takano weren't the ones who heard it. Was Uishi speaking about the truth at the end of Watanadoshi about Rita's syringe and Mion's and Takano's already dead yet appear in the story, or is he being fooled? We talked about this. The syringe thing, like, why would he lie about the syringe thing? I don't know. That seems like the least thing to lie about. I can see. I think Oishi's not. I think Oishi's telling the truth. Maybe he's lying about checking the corpse. Maybe he killed Mion. That doesn't matter, but I think he is. I think it's a half truth. Maybe he is being fooled by Rena. Into Higurashi, everyone said they were with Keiichi Maibara Festival. What happened? Script breaking is still my favorite take. Was Teppei dead or alive? Dead. If Teppei was dead, how did his body disappear? Takano or Tomotachi are the main. Tomotachi. Irie, not Tomotachi. Irue. Irie are the main suspects. Why did Irie commit suicide? Why did Oishi disappear? Actually, good questions. My immediate guess would be that they knew the disaster was coming and had different responses to it. There is literally no lead to why Oishi vanished, but I think I've talked about how Irie might have killed himself over guilt of not believing Keiichi, or maybe something Takano related, so I didn't mention this. And I guess they are questions into Higurashi. Like in Oishi's case of him disappearing, I feel like there's just no real hints to that. I think like maybe somebody mentioned once in like Anotatashi, people dumped cars into the swamp, so maybe someone put Oishi's car into the swamp. I don't know. There's nothing really pointing to Oishi's disappearance from what I've seen anyways. Still think it's a nice meme saying that Oishi doesn't have a car in Himatsubushi because his got lost into Higurashi. As for Irie, I mean, I like the idea of Irie checking Teppei's body and discovering Keiichi was right and decides to hide the body to protect him and then kill himself. I like the idea that he learned about the disaster and killed himself sleeping because most of the villagers died while sleeping. So this could have been a cool way of disguising his death. Like maybe he is one of the reasons why it happened. And if he died sleeping, the officials who don't know about the sleeping pill death would have just assumed that he died like everyone else, since they were kind of just dumping bodies, I think. I'm gonna add that. That sounds actually really good to me. Might have been involved with the disaster and died by sleeping pills, so the officials thought he died like everyone else. I think that's spicy enough to actually jot down. Who is killing Tomodachi and Tatano? Fate Tatano, maybe? Talked about this a bit. Yeah, we talked about Fate Tatano killing real Tatano. Tomodachi, maybe Fate Tatano, maybe some of the kids. No real answers. Who killed Rika? Tatano's boogeyman is my best guess, but there's a lot of people who don't have alibis, so who really knows? How did Teichi survive the Great Hinamizawa disaster? Actually, I have no idea. Maybe someone dragged him away, then back to the river later to make it seem like he survived, but I really can't think of the reason for it. So this is a great question which I just can't answer. I legitimately do not have an answer for this. I do not know how Teichi survived. He fell. My only guess is he wasn't knocked out the whole time and someone brought him somewhere safe from the gases, then returned him later to make it look like he survived. But it's weak. I don't know. Is there evidence to make a real guess of why he survived? I don't think so. I don't know. You stumped me. What are those footsteps that Teichi was listening to after the festival? It's the same as the presence in Anutakushi for me. How did Rita know the future events of Himasabushi, Uminato stuff, or Yashiro? Like Burncasto stuff to be more specific. Or Yashiro. Great Hinamizawa disaster of Tottori Goroshi is the same event as the one happened in Himasabushi. So this is actually a cool point. Haven't thought about them being different, but I don't think they gave any details about it, so it's safe to think that they are the same thing. So this is actually another great line of thinking, which I didn't thank you. Checklist, which I didn't even consider, like just because we know that a disaster happened in Himatsubushi, which is almost canon, and one happened to Torigoroshi. But what's saying that they're actually the same thing? The only thing is we literally have no information of what happened during the disaster in Himatsubushi. So there's literally like no point of really speculating on it unless we get some more proof in the answer arts. So yeah, they could be different. I'm open to it, but there's no evidence. So for now, you might as well call them the same thing. But it's good to have an open mind. So I think that's a very cool question. Is Great Hinamizawa disaster something natural, sober natural, or is it the work of humans? I'm pretty sure that's French for supernatural. Sobre natural. It's been like 8 years since I learned French, so French person made this. Good job. Or someone who knows French. I would say human or natural. I don't think it's supernatural since Rita died before the disaster. And the disaster did not happen. Also, it's kind of hard to imagine it being man-made on such a large scale. Though if disasters are different than these, answers don't really matter. So, like, what caused the Great Hinamizawa disaster? If you had to choose, I'd say it's between humans and nature. Like, I don't know what supernatural stuff would happen. Obviously, the answer would be Rita's death. But in Watsunadashi, Rita did die, and the disaster did not happen. So I think it's fine to say that it's that it didn't happen like that. Again, I've stated before in past theories that this could also mean that Rita didn't die during Watanabe, but who really knows? It's hard to imagine like such a big event being man-made on such a large scale, but I think if we do go with the idea that the disaster could be different, these questions don't really matter anyways. Does Oyashiro-sama exist? Maybe. Rita does a good job supporting it despite me not really wanting to believe in him. Again, there's not much proof to Oyashiro-sama existing. You could say from the presence behind Keiichi, but I think the fact that Rita knows all this stuff is like the biggest proof, and it's kind of hard, for me anyways, to imagine a world where it's not a supernatural thing happening with Rita. Do you suspect any characters? Yeah, pretty much everybody in general, for different crimes though, except Keiichi and Akasaka, I guess. So yes, I literally suspect everyone for different reasons, some for murder, some for not. Like Satoko, I think she might have yeeted some other people off bridges. Rena's omega suspicious at this point, same with Mion. I can see Shion and Mion are interchangeable, so they're both equally suspicious almost. Rita's suspicious for a different reason, for being some supernatural thing. Obishi's suspicious. Tomotachi Takano Irie. Literally every sprited character is suspicious, except for Keiichi. I don't think he's involved. And Akasaka. I mean, I even think Chia probably does stuff for the village that is illegal. So yeah, literally everyone's suspicious. If it's trying to say who's my main villain, I don't really have one. Rena and Oishi are the best answers. Satoko is also a good one. Okay, enough. So this is showing what actually happened to the curse murders. So for the construction site case, it was done by a group of people, accident or not, it doesn't really matter. There's discussion to be had if the people who assaulted him meant to kill him or not, but it doesn't really change the fact that they killed him. So that was done by people. The incident at the park, Satoko accidentally yeeting them off the ledge, or maybe Satoshi did it, so it's covered up the scene, or it could have been a accident. Those are my answers for that. The strange deaths of the priest and the wife. This one's literally the hardest one to imagine what happened, but from what we know with the wife, I can see her wanting to commit suicide rather than being with Rita. I don't really know about the priest. So the priest died from a health condition that's unknown, which is like omega sketchy, so I don't know what happened with that. But I can see the wife killing herself, because again, she doesn't really connect with Rita. She seems to be in a lot of stress because of Rita. So like if the husband dies, I can see her doing it in response. Or I don't know, Rita killed the husband and the wife because they're bullies. And the housewife bludgeoning case, Satoshi or Satoko did it. Oishi cleaned up. So there we go. Long video. Again, I think the highlight is the Watanabe Rena Mion theory, but I'm pretty happy with this. Lots of effort, lots of procrastination, but I think the end result, despite some of the paragraphs being pretty badly written, it's pretty good. So thank you for watching. I guess I should put that also in here, put it in like 90 finish, maybe put a picture here if I remember. But yeah, this was super fun. On to the next ones. If you enjoyed this video, again, Higurashi content is on the regular. We do that. We're gonna be doing a read-through of the answer arts now. And yeah, so if you're into the read-throughs, you can come back for that. We've done the read-throughs of every other art so far. We do other visual novels / games. And again, if you want me to talk about anything else, you can say what you want, and I will respond eventually. But yeah, thank you for watching. Long video. I appreciate you checking this out, and have a great day. Bye.